This is the Knick Show podcast with your host, Greg Armstrong, bringing you news of the week. Derrick Rose is a Knick. Going around the NBA draft, Ibaka is traded. Then we're going to get into a segment called What the Fuck You Talking About? Then we're going to get into the topic of the week. What's the best way to build a team? Phil Jackson's way. What should Kevin Currant do? Music brought to you by bensound.com. Knick Show podcast coming up. We're going to get into Knicks news of the week. June 19th to June 25th. On June 21st, Aaron Aflalo and Derrick Williams opted out of their contract. They had a player option. They both decided it's time to get paid. So they just said, you know what, we out. Aaron Aflalo, I don't think he's coming back. He believes he's the NBA starting caliber shooting guard. I beg to differ. I think the Knicks beg to differ. I think he would be very good off the bench, maybe in a small forward role, but whatever. If he believes he can get it, there'll be somebody out there to pay him. You know, there's going to be some foolish contracts this year, so you know what? I ain't knocking it. You know, if you think you're going to get your money that way, you go ahead. I ain't knocking you, brother. And Derrick Williams, actually, he's a player that I hope comes back to the Knicks. I don't think he's going to be cheap, though. What I'm saying is he's probably going to want more years and probably a few million more. He made like 5 million. He's probably going to want anywhere from I don't know. I think he might want at least $7-8 million, and he's going to probably want a guarantee of more playing time, which I don't blame him. I think he played well with the Knicks. I think in this up-tempo style, I think the Knicks it'll be perfect. You know, I think it'll work good with the Knicks. You know, but with them two guys opting out, the Knicks have now, you know, I don't know if it's 30 million, a little above 30 million. I don't know the exact number. It's always like, if this person does this, if this person scratches his nose, if this person washes his underarms. I don't know. It's just a lot of little things that go on, but they right around that area. You know, so Lance Thomas is also a free agent. I'm hoping that he waits till Knicks finish their shopping spree. Unless some team offers him 10 million, 8 million, 9 million, whatever. You know, I mean, look, I'm all for NBA players making their money. So if he finds an offer somewhere else, I'm fully down for that. You know what I'm saying? I respect the game. I respect that. You know, you got to find. You was a guy who I don't even think he was drafted to a player that can make millions, you know, and get a long-term contract. Hey, if you can, I understand, you know. But I'll tell you this, if Phil Jackson said to Lance Thomas that he intends on bringing him back and he intends on paying him, you know, what he believes he's worth, and, you know, if he gives him a number or whatever, I think Phil Jackson will honor what he tells him, if he tells him that. Because if you look at Phil Jackson, even the trades he's made, he traded Shumpert and Smith to a championship contender. Now they're champions. You know, he's not the type to hold a grudge or anything like that. So I believe that, you know, if he told Lance Thomas that he's going to get paid, he's going to get paid. And I think we can go over the cap for him. I'm not sure about that. And then Galloway is another player I would like to bring back, because you need bench players and support players, and they've been with the team. They know Melo, they know Porzingis, they know the triangle, things like that. So, you know, we'll see. Now, that's the small Knicks news of the week. Of course, the big Knick news of the week. Derrick Rose is a Knick. I don't know of any way to get into it. I think I got to just go straight forward. The Knicks traded Robin Lopez, Jerry and Grant, and Jose Calderon for Derrick Rose. And I don't even know where to start with this. I like the trade. Derrick Rose has 1 year left on his contract. Um, he's a dynamic player if healthy. But you know what? If Derrick Rose is the same player he was last year, just for 65, 70 games, averaging 16, 17 points a game and penetrating, he will open up so much for the rest of the Knicks. And for people who say he's not a triangle guard, that's not true. See, what people don't understand, as I realize about Phil Jackson, he's not of the school of point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. He's of the school of guard, forward, center. That's how basketball always was. Guard, forward, center. You can have two point guards playing. You can have, and he likes big guards because they're better for defense. They're usually more durable. But I think that Derrick Rose fits because if you look at the triangle offense when they're running it, and they're going to run a lot of pick and rolls and things like that, but if you look at the triangle offense, I saw many times where if Calderon had penetrating ability, there were holes. There's holes in that offense. It's just, he'll make him. Calderon just never made a move to get to the rack, or he'll dribble underneath the hoop. It's just so. I think there'll be a lot of opportunities for Derrick Rose. There'll be a lot of opportunities for Derrick Rose to go coast to coast, which Calderon wasn't doing. I mean, you saw how the team looked when Grant was in the game and he was running. The problem with Grant is he wasn't confident. With Derrick Rose, there'll be times where he'll do things outside of the triangle, but he's not going to be worried about being yanked and pulled out of games because he's not a young player. He does what he does. It's going to be like, oh, that's Derrick Rose. You got to let him do it. He ain't going to do it all the time, but I'm sure he's going to be times he's going to break play and, I got this guy. I'm dribble right by him. Those are things that Grant wouldn't do. I saw hesitancy with Grant. He would hesitate. He would hesitate and miss opportunities. I saw sometimes he get up there dribbling the ball and he's thinking, okay, what should I do? Now there's 5 seconds on the clock and he don't have a choice but to try to dribble, move, and score. Which, I just felt like the triangle offense, look, I'm not an NBA player, but it doesn't appear to be anything hard. It's a read and react offense. It's a simple, it's like, you throw it into the post. The thing that makes a triangle work really well is if you're cutting hard. I've looked at many Chicago Bulls games when I was a Knick fan, seeing them play against us and seeing Mike give up the ball or make a quick cut and get an easily layup or dunk. Plenty of times. Same thing with Scotty. It's just that. Think of the triangle as football. You have to make a move and get open. The ball is quicker than dribbling. It's quicker to pass the ball than dribbling the ball, and that's all you're doing. And when you throw it into the post, that's instant penetration. For the game. So that's just how I see it. But I think Derrick Rose. I think he will work out. I think it'll be a really he got a lot to prove. Even in his interview, I heard him, he was Derrick Rose, I tell you, he's honest. He's still raw. He sounds a little bit like Magic Johnson when Magic Johnson first came in the league. How he talks and stuff like that. But that's not an indication of his intelligence, by the way. But he said something that resonated with me when he was like, you were considered one of the top point guards in the league. Now you're hearing Stephen Curry and Kyrie and Russell Westbrook and he said Derrick Rose sat there. He was like, well, they know me on the court. Like he tried to be as humble as possible, but you heard the competitiveness because he said they know me on the court, and on the court ain't nothing sweet. He literally said that. Nobody really picked up on that. But he's basically saying ain't nothing sweet. We on this court. I'm a cook. Y'all know what I do. And other players know what I do. I feel like the same thing about Melo. Like, media and some fans and some people want to say Melo's not that good and blah, blah, blah. But his colleagues know he's good. His colleagues are like, they still double and triple teaming Melo. You know, Melo still can dominate. So I like that he said that. He's showing competitive fire and he's hungry. I mean, these guys got pride. He got to the league, being a great player, and he got pride. You saw the same thing with LeBron. They poked the bear, and I'm not putting him on LeBron's level, but he was an MVP. I'm not looking for Derrick Rose to be the Derrick Rose of old. Shoot, I'm happy with last year. You understand? Our point guards combined averaged less than Derrick Rose. And that's Derrick Rose coming back. And then you hear this disingenuous thing that people say. He only played 39% of his games in the last 3 years or whatever. And that's disingenuous. Because the truth is, yes, he missed the whole season. Played 10 games in another season. But last season he played 66 games. So it's going up. The trend is going up. So that's almost like how they do with the Knicks win total. They won 17 games and it's just I just get so sick of it. That's actually why I'm doing this podcast, because I get tired of hearing the bullshit. It's just like ridiculous. And it's hot takes and just, a bunch of stuff, and you don't get perspective and honesty and both sides, and literally, like, if you're tuning into these news stations for Knick news, a lot of times you're not getting objective news. You're getting it from a perspective of the Knicks have been bad for 15 years, even though they did have a 54-win season in there. But still, you're getting it from that perspective, like Phil's been here for 15 years. But anyway, I digress on that. So as I evaluate this trade, I think the best player in the trade is Derrick Rose, and they always say the team wins the team that gets the best player wins the trade. If he's not healthy, then that's another story. But either way, I knew that Robin Lopez was going to get traded. I thought it was going to be for Jeff Teague or something like that. But Phil swings for the fences, and I don't blame him. That's how you got to be. So we gave up Lopez, Grant, and Calderon. I thought Lopez was improving. He's entering his prime, and he's looking like he could be more of an offensive option. Grant, I think he's going to be a good player in the league. I can't say he won't be a star or will be a star. I'm not going to predict that. You never know what can happen. Sometimes the fire is lit under these players, but I don't get too attached to young players, because there's a litany of young players that people get attached to and turn out to be average and just never really improve. The NBA is very hard. It's a very hard league. And the thing is with Lopez, if you really think about it, there's many centers available. There's many centers. I mean, you have Derek. You have Dwight Howard for a max. I wouldn't pay him a max, but you have Dwight Howard. You have Joakim Noah, who's cheaper. Paul Gasol, somebody I do like. I'm a little worried about him in the new small ball offense, but I like Paul Gasol. You got Al Horford, who I love, but I don't think you got to max him out, and I wouldn't go for him. I like Paul Gasol the best because he's great passing big man, and he literally can usher in Porzingis into the center position. Like, we can sign him for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years, Porzingis can take over that position. Learning also from Paul Gasol. Who else better? He's one of the best post players in history, literally. He's a Hall of Famer. So that would be a good move. I like Noah, but Noah's going to cost about $15 million. I don't think we need a guy to play 30 minutes. I think we need a guy to play 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's why I like Paul Gasol. If we can get him for under 10, that's a much better deal than Noah for 15, even though Noah's a very good. Now, I want to go back to Dwight Howard real quick, because Dwight Howard is how can I put it? Dwight Howard is a great player. He gets a bad rap because People don't like Dwight Howard. People just don't like him. They don't like his personality, for whatever the reason. I don't get caught up in that. I'm not any of the NBA players' friends. I'm never gonna be their friends. I don't know what it is to live their life. I don't care. But all I look at is his production. He's a very productive player, still productive and centers can last long in this league. Yeah, he's not the same explosive center, but remember, if you sign him, you're not signing him to be a number one option or even a number two option. And that's why I love the Derrick Rose trade, because he's not the number one option or the number two. And by the way, did I mention we still have our cap space, like $30 million left to go after other players? We'll talk about that in the future as free agency starts Wednesday, or better yet, Tuesday night going into Wednesday. So I just think that was a good move. Now, that's Knick's news. That's Knick's news for the week. There's much more to talk about as we come back on the other side. I'm going to take a quick break, drink some of my coffee here, and I'll be right back. All right. The NBA draft was Thursday. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this draft. It was a weak draft to me, but I didn't really evaluate it. I'm gonna be honest. After the first two picks, I mean Jamal Murray, he's a big young kid, but I'm just going to talk about the first two real quick. The 76ers drafted Ben Simmons. That was a good pick, obviously. I think Ben Simmons has a chance to be special in this league. I'm not going to speak to his attitude or anything like that. I mean, you force the kid to go to college. He goes to college. His team sucks. I mean, sometimes we don't put things in perspective as fans and as media and as people who watch the games, and we forget about the human element, and we forget that these kids is 18, 19, they're children basically. Let's be real, they're young. They're very, very young. They got a bunch of people pulling at them, and he probably could have went straight to the league this year. Then he goes to LSU, then he gets drafted by the 76ers. I mean, come on. It's like he's having a bad year, but anyway, I think that if you're really looking at it, though, I really think Philadelphia needed a point guard. But I do believe in drafting the best talent available, no matter who's on your team. I really mean that. Because if you draft, you just can trade. Only thing about the NBA, it kind of sucks when teams know you want to trade. But if you have an all-world, like you have Russell Westbrook, and say, all right, just for I don't know, all-world point guards there, like a legendary point guard, like an Isaiah Thomas, or just somebody on that level. I still believe you draft that player. I do, because you still, hey, look, I don't believe in positions. I don't. You have dynamic players, you put them together. Great players figure out how to play together. It's different, but again, you still have a great asset. I'd rather have a great asset who I know can play rather than an asset that fits my team and I'm not really sure of. That's all I'm saying, unless you have a choice. So I don't, they drafted Ben Simmons. I think that was a good draft pick, obviously. I want to see what they're going to do with Okafor and Embiid and Noel. They're going to have to trade some of these guys. And they're going to, if they trade Embiid, it's going to be selling low. Right now, Okafor, that's selling low because teams don't really respect his game. I think he's really good. And Noel, either way, it's selling low. So they're better off just keeping these guys and having the big man rotation for now and punish teams inside. That's the best way I could look at it. The second pick went to the Lakers. The Lakers drafted Brandon Ingram. He is a guy that I think fits better with the Sixers. Somebody could fill it up. Sixers don't have a bunch of scorers. They drafted a distributor. But again, good pick. Brandon Ingram, he's going to be a scorer in this league. He's skinny, he's slight. It's not going to matter because he can shoot from the outside. He's long and lengthy. This is still basketball, not football. I remember Kevin Durant, they said he couldn't bench press, 80 pounds or something. It don't matter. He bench pressing them checks and busting motherfuckers' ass. I mean, let's be real. He's nice. And weight, every now and then the weight does come up. I do believe that eventually Kevin Durant needs a little girth, because I think that only thing missing from his game, as great as he is the post game, and it only really manifests in the playoffs. In the tight times in the playoffs, you need to be able to just take somebody in the post, put him on your hip, turn around, bang a jumper in his face, but he don't have that part to his game, and that's the only negative. So I can understand why you need weight. Right now, Brandon Ingram doesn't need weight. So you got a nucleus of D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Ingram. You got Jordan Clarkson, who's a restricted free agent. They're probably going to retain him. It's a good start for the Lakers. I think that it's a good start. D'Angelo Russell, I think he's a good player. I think when he's free and able to do what he can do, I think he'll be good. I'm not, I think that his issue last year, I think he didn't realize how hard the NBA was. I don't think he came with the right attitude. What I'm saying is he's not athletic. He's not super athletic and fast and quick where he could just play. He has to literally work hard for everything he gets. But once he gets his work ethic up to the NBA level, I think he could be a star. Because he's not particularly quick. But it doesn't matter. If he works hard at what he has a ridiculous jump shot, he has a good handle. Steph is not quick, but Steph is not playing around with you. He's playing hard all the time. He's making his crossover, he's setting himself up to shoot his jump shot. He's not being lazy with his game. And I think that's the problem with D'Angelo Russell. And I think he'll get over that, and I think he'll get better over time. That's basically, I'm not going to get into any more plays. The Knicks didn't have a draft pick. They signed the kid Baker. Let's hope he's a Baker from the outside. He was from Wichita State. He was undrafted. Now, we don't know if he'll make the team. We'll see. He's going to be in the summer league. I hope he makes the team. Why not? I hope also Cle Anthony does well. I mean, I would retain him because I think he's going to be cheap. I think I'm going to retain Cle Anthony just because he's cheap. He's athletic. I don't want to say Cle Anthony was a wasted second-round draft pick. I don't think he's really had a shot. His first year he was injured. His second year he got shot. I mean, that's messed up, man. So I think Cle Anthony, he showed spurts. He's super athletic. So in the instance, I want Lance Thomas or Derrick Williams or both of them back. But if we don't, Cle Anthony's going to be cheap, and we're going to have to look for cheap, especially if we sign a big free agent or use all of the money that we have. And so we're going to need those bench players and wing players. The other news of the week in the NBA, on draft day, there was a flurry of things going on. I thought Butler got traded. I don't know if it was a hoax or what the hell was going on. But I thought Butler got traded. Come to find out, he didn't get traded. He still remains on Chicago. I mean, honestly, I don't think they should trade him anyway. It's hard to find star players in the NBA. It's hard to find great players. It's just such a crapshoot. When you have a great one, you hold on for dear life. I understand why they traded Derrick Rose. I mean, I don't know if I would have done that. It's tough. When you got great players, like I said, I don't believe in trading great players. I don't. You never get back the same. But in Derrick Rose's situation, it may have been addition by subtraction. It just, the chemistry was very bad. The front office, the fans, Derrick Rose's family, just too much. It was murked up. Sometimes it just happens like that in relationships. It gets murky, where it's like, it's just too much. It's too much bad blood now. We got to break this up. It just, Even though Butler has some bad blood, but maybe by showing Butler some love, maybe that'll help them out. Sometimes these front offices, even though you need a great front office to build a great team, sometimes I think they get in their own way, sort of like Golden State. I have a feeling that this owner's going to mess up this team because he thinks he's the man, He owns the team, but he's believing that he's responsible for all of their success, and he need to be careful. Anyway, let's talk about the big trade that happened, though. So Serge Ibaka got traded to Orlando Magic. I wish I had some sound effects here. He got traded to Orlando Magic for Victor Oladipo. What's that other guy that shoot threes? Ilyasova. Good player, decent player. He's a decent player. He's a power forward. He's a stretch four. He's actually a stretch four. He's a good player. I like him. I think he could be good off the bench. That's a player I think the Clippers need to be looking into a stretch four. If I'm the Clippers, and Ilyasova is a perfect complement. I think that even Blake Griffin needs to get into the gym and shoot threes because it'll open up the floor for everyone else. But back to the trade. I think that, is it a good trade? Well, I think, first of all, Westbrook and Oladipo, people who don't know how Oladipo is, or Oladipo, hopefully I ain't butchering his name, dude is nice. Dude got star written all over him. I mean, literally, he has star potential. The kid is nice. He's relentless, too. So you going to put him and Russell Westbrook in the back? Oh, man, I see alley-oops all day. He's nasty, full of personality. He's a star in the making. I really believe that. I wouldn't have traded him from Orlando Magic. Sometimes I think that these management people outthink themselves. I think they had a young coming up team, and I don't know if I would have traded for a guy like Ibaka, unless you think he has some kind of offensive game. I mean, he's just not the type, I believe, that's going to change their fortunes. But hey, I don't know. You never know. It might work out. He's a good player. He's not a bum. He can shoot threes. He's decent. He's decent in the post. He can set good picks. But I'm just wondering, I don't know what Orlando Magic is doing. I really don't know, because they have Vucevic. They have who's really a good center, and he had good chemistry with Oladipo. Never underestimate chemistry. I don't think that the stat guys found a stat for chemistry. I think the plus minus kind of is a little bit of a chemistry stat. But I think they had very good two-man game, those guys, But they traded him because they have Fournier. That means that, because I knew they had to make a trade. They have Fournier, they have Hezonja, they have these wing players. They have Aaron Gordon, who's a power forward, sometimes a small forward, in a bigger lineup. They have wing players, so they probably figured they needed to make a move to get rid of the logjam. But I don't believe in that. Players, you just have to have good enough coach to convince players who's good, So now you traded for Ibaka, who definitely is going to have to start. So that means what? Is Aaron Gordon going to play small forward? I don't know if he's quick enough. He's athletic, but is he quick enough to play the small forward and chase guys around? I always thought he was a power forward. And you got Vucevic in there. So I guess you're going to put him at power forward, and Aaron Gordon is probably going to play the small forward. You got Hezonja off the bench. Alfred Payton starting, and Fournier is your shooting guard. I guess, Fournier is a good player, So, I just don't know if, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. Orlando Magic still trying to recover since Dwight Howard. We'll see. I that's all I can say about that one, But as far as the OKC, I see what they're doing. They're trying to make changes. First of all, Steven Adams made it easier for them to get rid of Ibaka. And I'm going to talk about OKC in the next segment. 2 segments down. I want to talk about them because they made this move, and it could mean one or two things. It could mean that they know Kevin Durant's out of here and they need more star power. Or it could be something to convince Kevin Durant to stay. Like, look, we're doing things. I feel like it's the first part. I feel like they're nervous about Kevin Durant and they're trying to cover their tracks. They have a bunch of good bigs. They have Cantor. They have Adams. I think that they're really trying to cover their tracks. Plus, like I said, the free agency's full of good big men. You could probably get another one for cheap. But I'm going to talk about that. The word cheap in OKC. Now, Sam Presti, he's probably the best GM in the NBA, hands down. San Antonio, all of them. I think Sam Presti is amazing. He's an amazing talent evaluator. He's the best in the game. Literally. I'm sorry. He just knows how to pick them. But anyway, that's around the NBA. I'm not going to get into all the other teams because there's going to be a whole bunch of activity this week. By next week, it's going to be, man, this segment's probably going to be the longest one I have. But we're going to get into our next segment. And it's called, What the Fuck You Talking About? I have to do this segment. I have to do a segment like this. This is important because I hear so much crazy shit come out of people's mouths who's supposed to be professional that it just drives me crazy. It makes me nuts to hear these guys talk like how they talk and say the things, and it's like you get paid to watch basketball and talk about basketball for a living, to talk about sports in general, but basketball for a living, and you come with this bullshit out your mouth. I'm like, if I got paid a nice salary, I'll be researching, I'll be checking the history, I'll try to get it right, not be right, but get it right. Anyway, we're going to talk about what the fuck they talking about coming up. I'm back. What the fuck you talking about? What the fuck you talking about? I had to create a segment like this because people just be saying all kind of shit out their mouth. So I'm just gonna start with Colin Cowherd, recently fired from ESPN. Now he's on Fox. I don't think anybody probably listening to him right now, but who knows? Maybe people are. I mean, I'm listening. I was listening. So let me just talk about what he said about the Derrick Rose. First of all, see, this is the thing. He's never liked Derrick Rose. He's always banged on Derrick Rose. He's always he never liked Derrick Rose. He's not a fan of Derrick Rose. He's not a fan of little small point guards, and he makes good points. I get it. Even Isaiah, as good as he was, he broke down. So I get it. Especially to carry the load of an NBA team is very difficult. But his hot take was Derrick Rose is he's very exciting. And the Knicks fans are going to fall in love with him. And then next year, the Knicks are going to sign him to a max deal. Because that's what the fans are going to want to do. The fans are going to want the Knicks to sign him to a max deal. This is what he said. He said this is why this is a bad deal for the Knicks. Even though Phil Jackson didn't offer Greg Monroe a max deal, he signed Lopez to a reasonable deal. And Phil hasn't been here for 15 years to say, oh, the Knicks. People talk about the Knicks like it's like their entire existence has been one management. For some reason, they're not respecting Phil Jackson's ability. He has 13 rings. He knows what a winner looks like. But let me get back to him. Let me get back to Colin Cowherd. So he says, the Knicks are going to re-sign him for the max deal because he's going to look good. He's going to look flashy, and the fans are going to love it. And he's like, and the Knicks, they always listen to their fans. They listen to what their fans want them to sign. They listen to their fans. That's what they do. They listen to the radio. They listen to everything. They always listen. Then in the next breath, he said, take Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin, great player for a handful of games, and the Knicks fans were all in love with him. And they wanted him to sign. And the funny thing is, right after he said that, he kind of stopped himself because I think at that moment he must have realized, oh shit, the Knicks didn't sign him because he wanted too much money. But you just said in the last breath, literally, you literally contradicted your own self within a space of 5 minutes. So you said, oh, the Knicks are going to sign him because Knicks do what everybody want them to do. They listen to their fans, and whatever the fans want them to do, they do, right? Turned around, mentioned Jeremy Lin. Knicks fans wanted him. That's what you said, and Knicks fans did want him. And the Knicks refused to pay him $18 million per year, or the balloon payment that the Houston Rockets did, which was a bad deal, I might add. Just like the bad deal that Landry Fields got in Toronto. Just stupid shit to try to, oh my God, I don't know how these GMs get their positions, but anyway, I think it's some nepotism going on and shit. So that was a what the fuck you talking about moment to me, because it's like I was listening and I knew it was bullshit what he was saying, but I did not expect him to contradict himself within the same segment. At least wait a segment. So Colin, he just be bullshitting people, and sometimes I got to turn him off. Sometimes he makes good points, and he deals with a lot of confirmation bias. He does a lot of that, but that's one. I actually got a second one. Stephen A. Smith, the owner of the last 6 championships, he has predicted every single one of them wrong. I'll say this about Stephen A. He's very good at his job, but he's not very good at sports. He's very good at his job, though, because his job is to entertain. This is what people don't realize. His job is to entertain. The only problem is he's slowly sliding, or maybe quickly sliding, into the role of buffoonery. He's getting into that, and I feel a little bad for him. Because even his co-hosts are starting, not co-hosts, I'm sorry, even other ESPN personalities are starting to go at him or just, because he says blatant dumb shit. I mean, I can't find no other word for it. It's just stupid. So the other day, he's on the mic and the Michael K show. And on the Michael K show, they asked him about the trade. And he said, well, it's a decent trade, The Knicks can get rid of him after 1 year if he's not the Derrick Rose of old. At least they upgraded. He was positive on the trade, but he always felt the need to make a stab at the Knicks. I don't care if he says he's a fan. It doesn't matter. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you're a fan or not. Just don't say stupid shit. That's all. Then he says, it doesn't absolve Phil of all. Phil was brought here to sign marquee players. He was brought here to put his rings on the table and sign the big names. And the funny thing about that, the funny thing about that is Phil never said that. So Stephen A., what the fuck you talking about? What are you talking about? Phil was brought here to win. Phil has been a winner everywhere he's gone. He's won in the CBA. He's won on every level. He's brought here to win, not to listen and bring excitement back to. First of all, he contradicted himself, because if he's here to bring excitement, well, guess what? Derrick Rose brings excitement. But anyway, I digress on that, which is one of his favorite words, right? But he actually said, because he just went on a diatribe or a rant about how Phil didn't, the Phil was brought here to sign marquee players. I hear these people say Phil's tenure was a failure. It's a 5-year contract, folks. It takes time to build a team. We're going to get into that in the next segment, but it takes time to build a team. So basically, I just wanted to say, Stephen A., what the fuck you talking about? Terrible. Just terrible. right. Now we're going to get into the Knicks topics, or the topics of the week. That's what I meant to say. All right. What's the best way to build a team? You know, a lot of people say that, you should build through the draft. A lot of people say free agency. A lot of people say a mixture of both. Free agency, trades, draft. I'm a proponent of many ways to skin a cat. I believe in doing things all ways, literally. Like if a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, it's like making a cake. It's not all flour. It's not, I'm not going to get into that analogy, but you know what I mean. But I'm going to give you a few examples on how teams were built and rebuilt as I'm turning my pages. So, the Lakers, after going to 9 championships in the 80s, and then they went to one in 91. It was a Magic era. That Lakers team was awesome. I don't believe that they already had a ready-made team. They traded for Kareem. They drafted Worthy and they drafted Magic. Or Magic and then Worthy. So that team was a mixture. But I'm gonna move on to the Chicago Bulls, right? Now the Chicago Bulls, believe it or not, they actually built through the draft. MJ was drafted, Scottie was drafted, Horace Grant was drafted. But then they also made a trade. They got Bill Cartwright, Paxson, but B.J. Armstrong was drafted. Will Perdue was drafted. So that team, basically, their core players were built with through the draft. That's where they got those players from. It was basically through the draft. I realize my volume's kind of low. So, that's one way. I'd say that was basically through the draft. Your core players through the draft. But then you take a look at the Lakers. In 96, they drafted Kobe. Now, I don't know if they thought Kobe was going to be all-world like he turned out to be, but they drafted Kobe. But the big deal they did that year is they signed Shaquille O'Neal. He was their prize. So he was their franchise player. They signed their franchise player. Derek Fisher was also drafted in 96 later in the first round. But after that, what's so funny is before that, their team, they had Nick Van Exel, Cedric Sabalas, Eldon Campbell, Eddie Jones, DaFuq, Anthony Peeler. Magic even played the year before. He played 9 games. So that was pretty interesting. But the 99-2000 championship team, they acquired Glenn Rice. They reacquired A.C. Green. They acquired Robert Horry, Rick Fox, Ron Harper. So this team, I can say that they didn't build through the draft. They got Kobe, yes, but they didn't build through the draft. Most of their team was basically through acquiring players. So that's one for the acquired and one for the draft. I'm not going to go through all of the teams, just a few of the teams, because I found it to be interesting. So we got the Detroit Pistons here. I'm talking about the championship they won with Chauncey Billups. Almost their entire team was acquired. They got Chauncey in the trade. They acquired Richard Hamilton, Ben Wallace. I mean, they drafted Tayshaun Prince. Rasheed Wallace was acquired. Their whole core was acquired through either free agency or drafts, which, a lot of people say build through the draft, but, I don't know. Sometimes it's better to just have proven players, So the second time the Lakers won, they kept Kobe. They acquired Powell. They acquired Odom in the Shaq trade. They drafted Bynum. Of course, they still had Fisher. So, again, they kept the guy they drafted, but they didn't build through the draft to build up that second championship run. Then if you look at the Dallas Mavericks, here go another example. They kept Dirk. They had a good team. They didn't win a championship, but they still kept Dirk. They acquired Jason Terry. They acquired Jason Kidd, Caron Butler, Stojakovic, and Sean Marion, and Tyson Chandler. All were acquired. None of them were drafted by the Dallas Mavericks when they made their championship run. So that's another, way they built the championship. This is the thing. We know, now let's take it to present day. Golden State Warriors, they drafted Draymond Green, they drafted Stephen Curry, they drafted Klay Thompson. They drafted those guys. That's the core of their team. That is the core of their team. OKC, they drafted Kevin Durant. They drafted, now this is not in order, by the way, because you're going to have some smart Alex say, hey, this one went before that. Fuck out of here. So they drafted Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Ibaka. Incredible. Like I said, Sam Presti's incredible. That's great. But see, this is the thing that people don't realize. That is a stroke of genius and a stroke of luck. It really is. Because if you look at other teams who've been in the lottery for years, I think the longest running lottery team is Sacramento and Minnesota. I can run through their picks. It's a crapshoot. You got to pick the right players. And that's a crapshoot. Your chances of winning or picking a star player is tough. I mean, let me see. Right now I'm looking at Minnesota. From 2006, I think they've been picking in the top 10 up until now. 2006, Brandon Roy. They didn't keep him. He ended up on Portland. He was the 6th pick. Corey Brewer was the 7th pick the very next year. O.J. Mayo was the 3rd pick the very next year. You see any star players yet? Ricky Rubio was the 5th pick. Johnny Flynn was the 6th pick. Then they picked Ty Lawson also I can't believe they picked, oh my God. They picked 3-point guards in the first round. I can't believe it. Anyway, let me keep going. That very next year, Wesley Johnson, the 4th pick in 2010. Luke Babbitt, the 16th pick in 2010. In 2011, Derrick Williams, a guy I like but not a franchise player. In 2011, the number 2 pick. 2013, Trey Burke, another point guard. Actually, he ended up in Utah. But either way, he's not even a good player. Zach LaVine. They drafted him 13. We'll see what happens. Now look. Now from 2006 to 2014, they finally got a player that Rubio you can count as a player that's that's stuck around, and that's a good player. He's not a star, but he's a good player. So I would say, okay, 2009. It took him 3 years to land a starter. Okay, let's just say it that way. But then if you continue on, 8 years. So basically in 8 years, they landed 2 starters. And they was in every draft 8 straight years. So they drafted Zach LaVine. So I guess they didn't draft Kevin Love. For some reason, I don't see him here. Maybe he was in a trade. But they traded Kevin Love, by the way, and they traded him for Andrew Wiggins, which I believe was a good trade. And then they drafted Karl Anthony Towns. My whole point, I'm not even going to go through Sacramento. My whole point of this is basically, the draft is a crapshoot. Drafting players in the NBA is a crapshoot. I'd rather go with guys who are already good, who are proven. I mean, that's just me, who already know what it's like to be in the NBA, who already know how to behave and how to be professional. A lot of people don't take into account when these guys go to big cities. These are rich, young athletes. I love women. I know they love women too. They go to Toronto. I heard a pro athlete say that. We go to Toronto, we lose our mind. They come to New York, they lose their mind. They go to Georgia, Atlanta, they lose their mind. They out there partying, they not being professional. That's why young teams, it's tough for them to win. Then on the court, they make a lot of mental errors and mistakes. I'm not against young players and building through the draft, but it's really not easy to do. It's really tough. And the Lakers, the most winningest franchise in the history of sports, basically, have never really built through the draft. They believe in getting established players, making moves, pouncing when there's established players, at least in their recent history. Now I don't know what they're doing, but in the past, that's how they do it. And you know what? It's the right way to go. I believe it's the right way to go. Anyway, that's just my opinion. You can still believe in building through the draft. That's fine. Hey, sometimes you get lucky, but I want to keep in mind that OKC haven't won a championship. Only Golden State has won a championship strictly building through the draft. Of course, when you draft like a player like Steph Curry, a generational player, Kevin Durant, I believe it's a matter of time. I think Kevin Durant will win a championship in his career. I don't know when, but I think it may happen for him. Now, I want to move on to, I said Phil Jackson's way at the beginning of this podcast. Now, the reason why I said that, and I put a question mark when I took my notes, the Phil Jackson way. What I mean by that is, like, people are saying that, what is Phil doing? And, first of all, Phil is way smarter than just about everybody who is commenting on him, including me. When it comes to basketball and when it comes to media, he just be playing the media. He just be putting things out there. He's a constant troll. People don't understand. Even Michael Jordan used to say Phil motivated him because Phil used to troll him all the time. Michael will have 50 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, and he'd be like, "Hey, Mike, but you missed that pass, and you let your guy beat you." Like, he knows how to motivate and troll. Sometimes, that's what he does. He used to do it to Kobe. That's how you push people, at least as far as that. But as far as the media, he's always throwing curves. I think he learned when he was going after Steve Kerr, that was something that was out there. It got out there. And he got played. I mean, I can't really say he got played, but Steve Kerr took a better job. At the time, it was a better job. And I think Phil kicked himself for letting that get out there, that he wanted them. Because let me tell you something. Lesser GMs or guys who aren't as smart, you got to understand, Phil had just gotten to the Knicks. So he had just came to the Knicks. So at that time, before he did any moves, people are going to respect what Phil, now it's probably a little bit of a lack of respect and underrated, but that's fine. But when he first came, people were saying, "Oh, he likes Steve Kerr. He must be good." And that's how I believe. I don't know. I have no facts. I have no sources on this. But I think that it's a copycat league. Oh, he likes Steve Kerr. Golden State went after him. I always hear Jalen Rose say that he raised the salary of players, but Golden State paid Steve Kerr $5 million per before he gave Derek Fisher that contract, by the way. So I just wanted to straighten that out. But anyway, so Phil Jackson, let's look at what he's doing. And if you want to figure out Phil, I'm going to tell you one way to figure out Phil, and just to figure out people in general, is not by what they say. But so when Phil got here, he looked around, he evaluated. That's the first thing you do. When you're doing anything, if you're building a building, you evaluate. Okay, is there some weak structures here? If something's wrong here, let me see what I could do with this. So he saw some weak links on the Knicks. On the Knicks. It doesn't mean if they're good with another team. On the Knicks, they were weak links. J.R. Smith was a weak link for the Knicks. He's since gotten more professional, but he was a weak link for the Knicks. Shumpert, not really talented, but thinks he's really talented. He thinks he's really talented. Weak link. They didn't want to get better and they didn't want to improve. I believe that he felt like, even though Carmelo Anthony is a older player than them, even though he is a more established player, I think that those guys may have affected Carmelo, because Carmelo's loyal to his peoples and his friends, and he loved those guys. And Carmelo's not the type to say, "Yo, JR, what the fuck you doing?" You know what I'm saying? "Yo, Shumper, what are you doing? Shoot the ball, man." He's not that type. LeBron is that type. Maybe not in those words, but LeBron is the type that will coach you up. Melo's like, "Look, I do what I do, you do what you do." Is that a great leader? No. But hey, I mean, if you really think about it, They said Patrick Ewing was a great leader. He never uttered a word. He led with his dedication on that court. And I believe, he's professional. I mean, let me tell you, Carmelo comes to play every night. He doesn't take nights off. Say what you want to say. He does not take nights off. So, tore down the team. Guess who else didn't want to be here? Tyson Chandler. He had to go. They got rid of him before. Now, I hear a lot of people say, oh, we didn't get... Now, I think that trade for Calderon, I think when he made that trade, I think he was probably thinking Calderon can be his John Paxson, his Steve Kerr, his shooter, and J.R. Smith can be like a penetrator or somebody who can score and kick it out to Calderon. I don't think he got Calderon to be like a penetrator and a fast break player. I don't think he did that, but I think it was a miscalculation. He thought J.R. Smith was going to be better than that. He thought Shumpert, one of those guys, were going to develop into that. Even Hardaway, none of them developed into that player he thought he might have thought they were going to be. So he got rid of him. He kept. Well, first of all, he couldn't trade Calderon, so let's just leave that alone. So now people think that the Knicks should have gotten more for Shumpert. Knicks have been shopping Shumpert before and wasn't getting really good offers, And J.R. Smith, come on, man. Before the trade, and I hear LeBron, pumping up his boy now. Oh, J.R. was a throw-in. J.R. was an asshole when he was here. You know that. He was untying shoes, hanging in clubs, doing all type of bullshit. This was the worst place for JR to be. He was hanging too much. He wasn't focused. Let's be real. He got in Cleveland. It's basically like a fucking desert. Ain't nothing to do out there. And then he got focused, and he got with somebody who's basically a better leader. There's no doubt about that. Because if you ask LeBron about JR and you ask Carmelo about JR, you're going to get different responses. Carmelo going to be like, hey, that's JR being JR. And LeBron's going to be like, JR need to get better. That's just how LeBron is. And that's kudos to LeBron. He's great, man. He's a great player. Top 2 all time, in my opinion. I'm not going to get into that discussion right now. It's not even important. So, he tore that down. He got rid of those guys because they were toxic. Sometimes there's a relationship you're in and it's just toxic. And he had to get that out of there. So he completely tore the team down now. Now, once you tear the team down, he knew the team was going to start losing. He made a quick decision. He pivoted. Now, Jalen Rose believes that he was tanking from the beginning when he traded Tyson Chandler. That could be true. I'm not going to deny it or agree with it. I don't really know. That could be true, though. That could be something that, people need to pay attention to. Maybe that's what he wanted to do in the first place, but was waiting to see if it fell apart. It was like a win-win. It's like, I really don't want JR, I really don't want Shumpert, but if they play winning basketball, I'll keep them. If they suck, I'll trade them and I'll rebuild I'll build up the way I wanted to build up. I'll start over. There's some good plays in the draft, and it was one of the better drafts in recent history. And trust me, this is going to go down as one of the great drafts in history. Karl Anthony Towns is an absolute stud. I believe Karl Anthony Towns will be a superstar next year. He's good, man. He is fucking good. I'm sorry. And I think D'Angelo Russell will be an all-star player. I think he will make the all-star game eventually. I don't know about superstar, but if his head is screwed on right, he's really a good player. He can shoot. You can teach that, but he's really good. He has a knack for the game. He's an awesome passer. I think he's going to be good. I think Okafor is going to at least average 20 to 25 points a game. I'm still high on Okafor. I don't know if he'll ever be a star or anything like that, but I just think Okafor is a good player, and I think he shouldn't be thrown in the garbage. A lot of people are acting like he's trash, and that's probably the stink of the being down with the 76ers. We'll see, And Porzingis, I think he's going to be the best player in the draft, and I'm not saying this because I have a Knicks podcast. I think he's going to be the best player in the draft because basically, think of it this way: he's not Karl Anthony Towns, but he has some of the skills of Karl Anthony Towns, some of the skills of Dirk, some of the skills of Durant, but that's not even important. The important thing is that he's 7'3", dog. He's 7'3". He's 7'3" and doing those things. Do you understand? That matters. Like I always say, like if Iverson was 6'6", he'd be one of the greatest players that ever played, and he still is one of the greatest players. And he was 6 foot. If he was 6'6", come on. Height matters. Size matters. This is a game of inches, a game of size. He's 7'3". The league has never seen. That's why they call it a unicorn, because unicorns don't really exist. Well, here go Porzingis, and people say that was luck. If it was luck, it wasn't luck. He went against the grain making that pick. They booed him. Then again, you had Stephen A. Smith. What the fuck you talk about? Talk about this is a travesty and getting on the air and with his buffoon act, So come on. Anyway, so he drafted Porzingis, the 4th pick. In free agency, he went after Greg Monroe. That didn't work out. Greg Monroe chose to go with Milwaukee. Like I said, I don't know if it's true, I've heard that Knicks did not offer him a max deal, which I'm happy about. I actually wanted Greg Monroe. You know what it is when your team sucks and you have no players, you just want players that can play. I didn't look at the whole thing. And Greg Monroe, Milwaukee want to get rid of him in the worst way. And, he didn't sign him, and he signed Robin Lopez to a very good, reasonable deal. He signed Robin Lopez to a reasonable deal. He signed Aaron Aflalo to a opt-out. Sometimes with players, you got to let their own need for money, and, it's nothing wrong with that, work against them. He signed them, and it was almost like, okay, I'm going to sign Aaron Aflalo. If he's great, hopefully he stays, or I can go over the cap to keep him, or I got his rights, or I don't even know if he has the rights. Let me take that back. But, it was just worth a chance. I liked Aaron Aflalo a couple of years ago. He's not that same player. He's lost considerable athleticism. He's not athletic at all now. He makes a nice little move, which he's pretty good at, and he gets to the hole and he gets to the rim, and he can't really, like, even on the fast break, he's terrible. He can't get up. He might as well pull up and shoot a jump shot. I mean, and he believes he can start somewhere. Bye. Take care, brother. So then you have Derrick Williams. He also signed. He signed him to a $4.5 million 2-year deal. It was like 2 years, $9 million, something like that, with a player option after one, which was another good deal. Now both of those guys have opted out, which led to the Knicks having $30 million in cap space. But I will get to that in a minute. So that's the team he went with. He still had, he signed Derek Fisher. Who is a winner, by the way, who's always been a winner. Derek Fisher made some mistakes, and I respect Phil. And Phil is, and the questions of Phil not being into this all the way, he fired his friend. He fired Derek Fisher, somebody I'm sure he cares about. Now, I've heard that relationship has deteriorated since then, and it should has. Because I'm like, yo, dude, I hired you to do a job, and you going out here, you told me that you going to see your family, and you out here cooking marshmallows and shit. What? You better win. Straight up, you better win pulling that kind of shit. Players don't trust you trying to get with it. Come on, dog. So anyway, he got rid of him. Let me get my timeline back in order. So the Knicks started off this year. There was some optimism. Melo came back. He was relatively healthy. I thought Melo was going to be the Melo of old as far as being able to take games over it, and he wasn't that Melo. But he was getting good, and then he tweaked his ankle. That's what happens when you become an older player. You tweak things sometimes, and stepped on a ref. The Knicks were 22-22 and rolling. And what happened after that? They just went on a super-duper losing spree. Just losing a lot of games to the point where they fired Derek Fisher. I was shocked. Porzingis had a very good rookie year. He was runner-up. So again, now, I just want to say, Phil Jackson had one summer with no cap space. Okay? He had no cap space that first summer. He made a little small move of Tyson Chandler. The second year, he had cap space. He signed Robin Lopez, and he also drafted Kristaps Porzingis, and he drafted Jerry Grant. I'm sorry, because that's important. He drafted Jerry Grant and he traded Hardaway because he was another. I wouldn't say he was a malcontent. He just wasn't living up to what the Knicks thought he would be. He could shoot. He seemed fearless, but they were very reluctant to play this kind of basketball. And let me tell you something. Triangle and system basketball is made for the playoffs. That's where you win. You know, you win with system basketball in the playoffs. It's important to have system basketball because when your one-on-one breaks down and your fast breaks break down and all the other things you're trying to do break down, you can go back to your system. All great teams have a system. San Antonio, Golden State, Cleveland, they all have a system they employ that they can go back to. And it's just basically a safety net. You know. So now here we are. This is his third summer. See, I got to judge Phil by summers because that's when he can make changes. So this is going into Phil's third summer. Again, his first summer, he traded Tyson Chandler for Calderon. His second summer, or actually during the winter, he got rid of Shumpert and J.R. Smith. And then in the summer, he drafted Porzingis and drafted Grant. Now, again, yes, he's been here 3 years, but he has had 2 summers. I'm sorry, no, I'm bugging out. He hasn't been here 3 years. This is his third summer. He has had 2 seasons as their GM. Because be clear, he signed with the Knicks after their season, basically. And he fired Woodson. So basically, they're counting that year. You shouldn't count that year. That was already a lost year. Okay? He came in, that summer, he couldn't do anything. So there was 1 year they sucked. They got Porzingis. The second year, they weren't that great. They weren't good. And now this is his third summer, his second summer with cap room. Now, let's come up to the summer. Now, remember, this is what he's doing is building a team. He made a trade. Because he signed Lopez to a good deal, because he made a trade for Jerry and Grant, and believe it or not, Calderon, that turned into Derrick Rose. And he packaged those 3. Now, I'm going to tell you why I don't believe the Knicks gave up too much. I think the Knicks did the right thing. The Knicks knew what they were doing. They were getting salary off their books. At the same time, taking a chance at a guy who could possibly still be a superstar. And if he's not a superstar, he's still better than what we had. He still knows how to play this game. So if he's a superstar, it's a slam dunk. You know, if he's just like he was last year, it's still a good trade. Now, if he's not I'm not even going to worry about year 4. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to worry about this year. So now you have Derrick Rose. These NBA players are friends. They practice together. They play together. They work out together. Derrick Rose may be working out with other NBA players, you know, because they travel. It's like, yo, D, what's up? You in L.A.? Kevin Durant may be calling, you in L.A.? Yo, what gym you going to be? All right, let's go work out. That happens in real life. It really does happen. I mean, you saw a video of Kevin Durant and Carmelo playing a pickup game in Carmelo's gym. That happens. It's almost like working out. If I work out and I'm friends with these guys and I'm in your city, yo, what's up? Let's get a workout. That's all that is. And these guys might be working out with Derrick Rose and like, yo, he looks good, man. He looks explosive. They're going to talk. And they already got Melo and Porzingis. These guys talk. So because of these moves that subsequently led up to Derrick Rose, it puts the Knicks in a better position for free agency, and they still have $30 million left. And they still have $30 million left. And then now, Phil Jackson, this is the funny thing about Phil. He's always said he just wanted a system. He never said he needed the triangle. The man is telling you out of his mouth what he wants. He signs Jeff Hornacek. Completely fucked y'all heads up. Maybe he didn't mention it because he didn't want other people to go after him. Had y'all thinking he was going to sign David Blatt or Vogel or Rambis, that might have been a smokescreen. I don't know. And people will say, oh, you drinking the Phil Kool-Aid. No, I'm looking at the facts. I'm looking at what's happening. Just because he's telling you something, Phil's always played with the media. Like Bill Parcells is a bully to the media, Phil is a troll. He trolls the media all the time. I think he sits back and gets a kick out of it. Oh, these little people. You know what I'm saying? He gets a kick out of it. You know, and he's not a fan of the media, so why would he even tell you anything? I mean, people always say, I don't know his plan. I always laugh at the media when they say, I don't know his plan. I don't know if New York is the only place that does this, but I think it's idiotic to a guy who's building a team and a system has to tell you everything he's going to do. I just don't understand that. I just want to see results. That's all. If there's no results, I don't need to watch. Period. So here we are with a chance to sign marquee free agents. We're getting a meeting with Kevin Durant. So all you can ask for is a meeting with Kevin Durant. Now, LeBron is also a free agent. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I had to mention it because he is a free agent. I don't think he's going anywhere. LeBron plays a special kind of game. So Derrick Rose and LeBron James couldn't even coincide. Either the Knicks could sign him. He's not a spot-up shooter. It's just not his game. He has to have the ball. It'll be like Kyrie, and it'll just be I don't even think I can't say it'll be a bad team because if LeBron is on the team, it's not a bad team. So now, I'm going to get now that's the way of Phil Jackson, and right now I like the way it's going. He has 5 years. Oh, one last thing I wanted to say about Phil Jackson. Pay attention to his actions. As long as Phil Jackson has been in the NBA, he likes superstars, man. He don't play around with these marginal. I mean, he's had marginal players, but he knows you need superstars to win. You need guys at another level. So to think Phil, I don't know why they would think Phil would want to rebuild. Like, why would he rebuild? He got 5 years, man. He's not a young man. He wants to see this team on top before he leaves this motherfucker. Why would he just, I'm just going to rebuild and get young players and take. Do you know how long it takes to look at, everybody knows Orlando has talent, and they still haven't made the playoffs. Years. It takes a long time. Phil is not down for that. Phil came from L.A., where they get star players. That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it. So pay attention to his actions, and his actions tell me he never was on no rebuild shit. No, he tore it down, and he was trying to build it up. And plus, with all the free agency money, with all the money in free agency, there's no need to rebuild so slow. That's stupid. The Knicks got $30 million this year, and they may have $50 million or $70 million, some astronomical number next year. So why? My question is why? Why would you say, I'm going to sign this young guy who's not really good yet, and he's getting good? No. You want to go after guys who are established, because it's not about winning. You're not going to win a championship for 10 years straight. That's why I always say to people, you have this young team. Okay, I understand a young team because you want to have as many shots as you can possibly have at a championship. But you think Boston would give back their championship when they had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen? Rondo was the young player, but do you think they would give that back? I mean, the goal is to win a championship. Hopefully you can build a dynasty, but the goal is to win a championship. So people need to stop that. A young team, you can build a young team and never get anywhere. The goal is to win a championship, and the better players you get, the best chance you have to win a championship, young or old. So I don't want a guy who needs to develop. We got a guy who needs to develop. Kristaps Porzingis. After that, first of all, Derrick Rose is 27. And if we do sign Kevin Durant, is he 30 yet? I don't even think he's 30. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So that's Phil's way. Phil is doing it his way. He's always been doing it his way. He's way smarter than y'all guys. Don't get mad. That's just Phil. So anyway, my last topic is, what should KD do? What should Kevin Durant do? Now, I had planned for this segment to be a little longer, but I guess I got long in the tooth with this whole Phil Jackson and best way to build this whole thing. This has been a wonderful first podcast, Knick Show podcast. The very first one, I'm really thoroughly enjoying this, and it's gone longer than I thought it would. And I'm just getting to Kevin Durant. And now, if we want to analyze this situation, matter of fact, I want to see. Let me see what teams Kevin Durant is giving interviews with. Excuse me, why I go on Twitter. I get some news from there sometimes. I just want to be accurate with. I want to be accurate with. I want to be accurate with the teams. I think it was Dallas. I'm trying to figure out. Or I know Knicks is one of the teams, but I just want to see the teams that he wants to give interviews to, that he may give interviews with. Okay, the Celtics. All right, you know what? Let's start with the Celtics, and then we'll just work our way through it. The Celtics. First of all, this is going to be short and sweet. I don't think he should go to the Celtics unless the Celtics is bringing someone else in, because the Celtics. Well, first of all, I just saw something. I'm sorry, I got interrupted. The Lakers are not getting a meeting with Kevin Durant. It sucks. The Wizards are not. So much he's from Baltimore. He's going to go to the Wizards. Y'all need to shut the hell up with that bullshit. Anyway, he's not even talking to them. Now, let's continue. Now, the Celtics, I don't think he's going to sign with the Celtics. I don't think he should. You know, a lot of players don't like going to Boston. Let's be real. A lot of players don't like that. I hope I'm not too loud on this. A lot of players don't like going to Boston for various reasons. I mean, I think people will understand. It's basically, it's a white city. Let's be real. It has black people. It has a lot of black people, but it's Boston. Boston just has a bad history. Even if it's not true or not, if it's not true, it's just people look at Boston sometimes because of their history, as far as signing black players and the treatment of black players, even though I don't think Boston's the same way. I really think Boston has evolved as far as that, at least with their star players. But I don't think he should even consider Boston, because I think he's going to do it out of respect. But, I mean, okay, he goes to Boston. They have Isaiah Thomas, who's really good. They have... I don't know if they're going to re-sign Evan Turner. I don't think that team is a conference final team with Kevin Durant. They might win a round. But again, I'm just counting. You see, because to me, with the Celtics, the reason why I rule them out is too many moving pieces. Like, they have to sign him plus somebody. You see what I'm saying? That's a problem. To sign him plus somebody, it's still iffy. It's no guarantees. So let's rule Boston out. All right. What's the other team? Man, I can't find the other stuff. Who else? I think he's supposed to meet with the Mavericks. Unbelievable. When you go on Twitter, there's so much. You have to go through the trash to find out, I had the whole thing lined up, but I really, it's really ridiculous. I'm trying to find out, but everybody is just trying to put their own. I understand it's Twitter. I think the other team. Oh well, it was the Spurs. Spurs was another team that wanted to meet with Kevin Durant. He's going to give them a meeting, which I don't know why. There's literally nowhere for him to play there, unless they're going to trade. What's his name? Kawhi Leonard, or put him at the 2 guard, or trade this guy, LaMarcus Aldridge. There's really nowhere to fit. But I don't mind speaking to him. I just don't think there's a fit there for him. So, I don't think he should sign there either. So, let me see. Who else is left? I'm going to get to the Knicks last. I'm going to get to the Knicks last because I really have a lot to say on that. Okay, here we go. He's going to meet with the Golden State Warriors. That's a good deal. He's going to meet with the Warriors. Should he sign with the Warriors? Well, I found out that the Warriors got to literally trade 4 players to have room for him. They have to get rid of a lot of people to get rid of him, but I'm sure they would keep their core. So let's just focus on their core. It'll be Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. That will be their core. That is a hell of a core. But I'm not going to say what I think he should do on this one. I just don't think he's going to go there. I mean, he wants to win a championship, but I think his ego won't allow him to join a team that already won a championship and a team that won 73 games. I just don't believe it. I think that he's still young enough to try to want to do it by himself. But then again, not by himself, I'm sorry, but not with a team that basically is right there. Oh, I'm getting text messages all the time. This is ridiculous. Don't y'all know I'm doing a podcast? Damn it. Now, I don't know if he's meeting with Portland. I'll just say no. Portland, no. Who else? The Clippers, they have to move a lot of pieces to fit him. No. I don't even think there's a team on the West he should shine with. Now, I'm sorry. Let me get to OKC. This is what I really wanted to get to. Now, OKC. Everybody says he should go sign with OKC. You know, the fairy tale story, the team he came in the league with. He's very close to winning. They won. They was up 3-1. So he should stay with OKC. I don't know. Who knows? He might still be holding a grudge from the fact that they traded James Harden. Now they just traded Ibaka. Don't get me wrong. It was a good trade. However, I think there's a lot of moving pieces with Oklahoma City. And I think that Kevin Durant is a type that probably wants to put roots down. He may decide to stay, but I don't think he's going to be able to, I think a big part of him staying probably has a lot to do with what Russell Westbrook's going to do. And how is Russell going to tell him, yo, I'm definitely going to stay, man? He's not going to tell him that. I don't know what Russell's going to do. He might leave. Everybody keeps saying he's going to the Lakers. He's not going. I don't think he's going to the Lakers. I'm sure he wants a big market. I'm sure he might like New York because of fashion, all that other shit. But I don't think he's going, because look, they already got, unless Russell's going to move over to the 2, I don't see, you know what? It could happen. That's a whole nother, I'm not even going to get into that. That's just another year from now. We're going to stick with Kevin Durant. Now, the reason why, if I'm him and if I'm advising him, I'm telling him, be very wary of re-signing with OKC. Because, yes, you'll have a shot this year to win a championship. You will. But what about next year? What about next year? What if this guy leaves? What if Russell Westbrook leaves? You got Cameron Payne, I think that's his name. But what if Westbrook leaves? Yeah, you got Oladipo. That's good, too. But that's not a championship team. What if he leaves? And another thing, too, is I realized that OKC owner does not show. They don't look like they want to go over the cap. They're not willing to go over the cap and do whatever it takes. I'll tell you this. Say what you want about Jim Dolan. Say what you want about him. Say what you want about Dolan. If he had Kevin Durant, Russ, Harden, and Ibaka, they would still be on the Knicks. He would pay that. Fuck salary cap. Fuck this shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, it is what it is, but he would have paid it. And that should factor into Kevin Durant, because if you look at Cleveland just won a championship. They're far over the salary cap. because they were trying to win a championship. So this is something that Kevin Durant got to really pay attention to. And that's what I would advise him. And that's why I would think long and hard before I sign on the ink and on a dotted line. And also, it's another thing I got to throw out there. Are the Spurs going anywhere? Because I hear everybody say, oh, they were 3 games up. Yeah, they beat the Spurs. But does it mean the Spurs can't come back and beat them? The Spurs can't sign Mike Conley? Mike Conley's out there. The Spurs are, by the way, the Spurs. How do they know Mike Conley won't go to the Spurs? What if he goes there? Does that make them a better team than OKC? Maybe. A healthy Mike Conley with that team? That might make them a championship team. You still got Golden State. You still got the Clippers, who are going to be rested and healthy, and that's a dangerous team. They had injuries, but I'm saying these teams are possibly in the first of all, the Spurs are good enough to beat them. Golden State already beat them. Clippers are on their heels, I believe. I still respect the Clippers if they're healthy. I still respect them. You got Portland. Who knows who they might sign? So, and you have an owner who's reluctant to go over the cap. You have to think about these things. I'm sorry. This is how I'm looking at it. Now, and let's be real. What does OKC offer you? See, this is the thing. This is another misconception I always hear. This is what I always hear from the media. Oh, you could be a superstar from anywhere on the globe. You know, you could be a superstar anywhere you play and all of this other stuff. That's true. There's being a superstar and it's being a freaking planet. You play in LA, you play in New York. Let's think about it this way. Marginal players from New York are more known. Shumpert and J.R. Smith in some circles are more known than Kevin Durant when they played for the Knicks. And what I mean by that is not by basketball people, okay? Because in basketball people, yeah, Kevin Durant, yeah, definitely. But I'm talking about just in regular circles. People know who J.R. Smith is. Steph Curry is number 1 player in the league. But I mentioned Steph Curry to somebody, and they were like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. That's that light-skinned guy, right? You know what I'm saying? But if you mention Shumpert, oh, that was that guy who used to play for the Knicks that raps with the crazy hairstyle. They only know him because he played here. Look what Lala's doing. If you think that doesn't mean something to these players, if you think Kevin Durant doesn't like being an afterthought, one thing about New York, if he came here, New York is big enough for all of them. That's how New York it is. New York they'll love Kevin Durant. There'll be people who love Carmelo, people who love Porzingis, people who love Derrick Rose. That's just how New York is. And it's the passion for basketball is ridiculous. But OKC is too. Okay? Let me be clear with that. So maybe he wants to raise his profile. Remember, Kevin Durant used to try to rap. I ain't hear none of it. But he used to try to rap. So, and does that matter? Not really. But I'm just saying, I think that Kevin Durant seems like a guy that might want a little more attention. I think he wants to also come east. Now, let's look at basketball reasons for the Knicks. Now, first of all, moving to the east is a smart move, period. If he goes to Boston, they might get to the conference finals. Maybe. I'm not really sure because Toronto's still decent. If he signs with Toronto, they might win a championship, but he's not going to Toronto, trust me. And this is why I tell you, when the guys say, listen, this is what I always say about people. What I learned in real estate, I learned this in real estate. I had a good deal. You know, I remember it was this lady, and I'm showing her apartments in Manhattan. It's ridiculous. I'm showing her apartments, and she said her budget was $2,500. Yes, $2,500 for a 1-bedroom in New York City. Yes, in Manhattan, $2,500. Now I'm sure that's cheap, but it was $2,500, and she wanted, a nice apartment. So I showed her. Now $2,500 in Manhattan will get you a walk up and maybe 400 square feet. I'm not lying. So I showed her some nice buildings, right? I was like, oh, look at this. This is in your price range. Nice area. Now, every area in Manhattan, especially once you pass, if you're on the west side and you from the upper west side all the way down, the whole Manhattan is nice. Let's be real. So I showed her some nice places. The upper west side, not the lower east side, I'm sorry, the upper west side, the upper east side. I showed her in Clinton, which is Midtown West. I showed her in Chelsea. I even found a place in Chelsea where everybody likes to live. It's where the clubs, the epicenter of New York. It's where all the clubs is at. Shit is popping over there, So I showed her all of these different places, and I never heard from her anymore. I'm like, why I'm not hearing from this lady? I showed her all these different places. I'm like, damn, I thought I had a deal. I showed her everything. So I, doing my due diligence, when business is slow, or you want to find out what a client, you go through your Rolodex and you keep calling your same clients. You have to keep calling them just to make sure, like, hey, are you still looking? So I called her up and I'm like, are you still looking? And she was like, no, I found a place. I was like, oh, word? Okay. Well, I didn't say a word, but I was like, oh, okay. Well, may I ask, what did you find? And she's like, oh, I found a place in what she said, in Murray Hill, which is the east side in 30s. Gramercy is the east side in 20s, but Murray Hill is like the east side in the 30s in Manhattan. She's like, oh, I found a nice one in Murray Hill. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to ask, but how much was the rent for that? She said, oh, I found a nice building. It was a doorman building. And I said, well, how much did that? That had to be expensive. She said, oh yeah, it was $3,500 a month. I was like, oh, I thought your budget was $25. She was like, yeah, it was, but I just had to have it. I just thought it was great. I was like, okay, well, you enjoy your new place. And, I wish you the best in life. Take care. And I told the more established agent about that. And she was like, look, that's why when I show apartments, I don't listen to what they say. I try to find out what they want. They're always going to tell you what sounds good. I want something in my budget. I want something by the train. You need to find out what they want, and a lot of times people want prestige, people want fancy, and basically that lady, that's what she wanted. What she told me was what she needed. And we know how it is in life. Even when you go to buy a car, what you need is just a nice car to get you around, and you leave with a freaking Mercedes or some shit. Because what you want and what you need, people always going to do what they want. So the reason why I said that is because Kevin Durant said basketball reasons. First of all, what else could he say? He has to say basketball reasons. If he doesn't say basketball reasons, the media is going to kill him. So he says basketball reasons. He might even believe basketball reasons. But there's more to basketball to these guys, believe it or not. You see Melo in the offseason. I know Durant's sitting back like, damn, you don't see me doing shit. Melo's doing Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters and shit just because he's in New York. His team didn't even make the playoffs. Look what he's doing. Porzingis is in commercials. These guys ain't even go nowhere. You don't think that matters? Look at Lala. You don't think that matters to these guys? Really? I'm in this little pond called OKC. You don't think that matters? Now, let me get back. Now I'm going to get on the court. I believe, look, there's no guarantee OKC will get back to the conference finals next year, even with Durant. And they got rid of Ibaka, so there's some growth that has to take place. There's some chemistry that has to take place. There's no guarantee they'll get past the Spurs if they play the Spurs again. There's no guarantee. They might meet Golden State in the second round because, trust me, they're going to meet one of those guys in the second round no matter what, And then you still got the Clippers, like I said. So, now if you put him in the East, now if he joins the Knicks, you're going to tell me a team with, all right, you know what? I'm going to take Derrick Rose off the team. Let's just say Derrick Rose is not on the team. Before you knew Derrick Rose was on the team, Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony, Kristaps Porzingis, and role players, that's probably a playoff team. Carmelo and Durant's probably a playoff team. Now you add Derrick Rose to that team. And I believe he's going to be healthy. Let's assume, well, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to assume that he's healthy. Let's just say he plays the 66 games. You have to take a scenario. I can't just say, let's assume he's hurt. You know, he plays 66 games. The Knicks signed Kevin Durant, signed role players to go around them. Now, you would have a starting 5. Now, I don't know who's going to play shooting guard right now. But you got to understand something. Lesser players, they will join the team. If they're lesser players, they'll be willing to play. When I say lesser players, I mean players like Courtney Lee. I mean like a Jamal Crawford. I mean players of that ilk who are like, you know what? I want to win. Those kind of players will come join the Knicks for cheap if Kevin Durant's on that team. So let's just have fun with it. Derrick Rose, Courtney Lee, Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony, Kristaps Porzingis. I'm going to go even cheaper than that. I'm not going to put Courtney Lee in there because he might be too good a player. Let me just say Galloway. I'm just going to say Galloway. I'm not even going to put – I'm going to say the 2 guard is Galloway and the rookie. Derrick Rose, Galloway, Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony, Porzingis. That team is probably in the conference finals next year in the East and for the foreseeable future with a definite chance to put a scare into Cleveland. I'm not going to say they're going to beat Cleveland. I'm not crazy. But that team, you're going to tell me Toronto can beat that team? You're going to tell me Boston can beat that team? Atlanta? If Durant comes to the Knicks, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals next year. Now, you can't say that in the West. You can't say that in the West. And on top of that, next year, the Knicks are going to still have cap space to sign other people. Or they could let Derrick Rose go and possibly sign Westbrook. Or possibly sign Chris Paul. And they're going to have their draft pick. Because I think that this year is a playoff year. I think next year is a championship chasing year. And the next 2 years are championship chases. And that's how it was going to be all along, you know. So, if I am Kevin Durant's agent, that's what I'm telling him. I'm like, dude, these ain't your same old Knicks, man. This ain't your same old Knicks. You'll be in New York. Your chances to win a championship with the Knicks will be just as good as winning a championship with OKC. And people say, oh, you crazy. No, I'm not crazy. Because OKC can get knocked off by the Spurs. Yes, they beat the Spurs, but what makes you think they could beat the Spurs this coming year? What makes you think the Spurs are not going to get Mike Conley or get better? Players want to play with them. What makes you think they're going to beat Golden State next year? What makes you think Russell Westbrook won't get hurt? Do they have a backup for him? Now, people say, well, what makes you think that Derrick Rose won't get hurt? That's true. They still got Melo. They still got Porzingis. And these guys are under contract. The Knicks' arrow is pointed up. And you're in the weak East. And you're in New York. And if you win a championship here, that kind of trumps the whole league, basically. I mean, let me tell you something how big and bad New York is. That Derrick Rose trade almost overshadowed Cleveland's parade. More people, I looked on Twitter, Derrick Rose was trending. New York Knicks were trending. The Cavs were not really trending. Now, it's a parade, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, that's the monster you deal with here. But anyway, this brings me to the end of my first Knicks Show podcast, and I'll be doing one of these every week. I look forward to seeing one of these listen to one of these every Sunday or Monday, depending on your time. every week, once a week. Knick Show Podcast. I'm out.